I would kill another human being in the first episode, first scenario.
No one asked you that, Onion. Hello, welcome back for our 6th episode of The Heated Table. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. Today is going to be a super special episode because it's going to be a spotlight episode.
Our first ever spotlight episode, to
Yes.
be exact.
This is Chef's Choice, so we choose one specific webtoon to talk about and try to cover it. We won't cover it all because for this episode, it's Omniscient Reader, which is so freaking good. I started reading it and I was like obsessed, and I was like, where can I read more of this? So I'm gonna be today's facilitator. I'm Cash.
Ami. May.
Onion.
So with this fabulous company, we're gonna start talking about it. First, I just want to get the vibes. Vibe check, Omniscient Reader. Was it what you guys were expecting? And this is an isekai, which is your favorite genre.
Yes.
So I also want to know if it gets like the seal of approval as like an isekai fan.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay, so
Deserving of those.
very,
two, oh my
very
gosh.
deserving. I'm not so much like, I'm not really into like the apocalyptic genre, but I don't know why I'm really into this. And I think it's because it reminds me of a video game.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was reading it, I was getting a lot of Tensuda vibes, which is another like really good isekai anime and not. Well, it was a novel first, and it was a manga, then an anime. So it's another really good isekai anime that also gives me like the same like video game vibe. So I think because of the scenarios, like breaks it down into different arcs. That's why I vibe with it so much, because it's not like it is apocalyptic, but it's not. Maybe apocalyptic isn't the right word, because I've watched quite a few and read quite a few apocalyptic stuff before. Maybe it's more like I'm not really into like zombies and like that kind
I'm
of
into zombies
apocalyptic
and stuff.
Yeah.
The Walking Dead was literally like my thing. I know so many things about zombies, and I've read an embarrassing amount of books about it. What about you, Onion? What did you think?
About Omniscient Reader?
Yeah, initial thoughts. Vibe check it.
I think it's one of a kind, really good manhwa that I can read over and over again and not get sick of it.
That's another thing about it. I could reread it and still feel the same like excitement.
We've also been talking about even reading the novel, because there is a novel. So
yeah, I really enjoy it. When I was reading it, I didn't realize there was a novel for it first. So as I was reading Omniscient Reader, I was just like, there's so much text. I feel like this should be a novel. But yeah, it definitely, oh yes, honey. It definitely is a novel. Originally, I believe, right? So I really do want to go back and read the novel once if I catch up. I don't know where the webtoon is compared to the novel, but once I catch up to the webtoon, would definitely like to start reading the novel just to see in the future and be an omniscient reader.
Yeah. So like
when they say the title.
Speaking of the novel's completed. So that's one thing. The novel's already done. The webtoon, at least the English release for the webtoon, we're in the middle of scenario 5. And from what I was reading when we were like kind of putting this whole podcast episode together, there's 99 scenarios. And I think that translates, some of the scenarios are shorter than others though. So it translates to about 20 different arcs. So if that gives you a perspective of where we're at right now, the webtoon versus the very longevity of the actual novel, then you're in for a treat because there's a lot of content.
Yeah. Which also means possibly more spotlights on this one.
Yeah.
Which I'm hype about because I just think it's really good.
There's so much content just that to discuss anyway. So I feel like we should definitely do another spotlight if we don't cover a lot. Well, we're not going to cover a lot because it's not done yet. But
yeah. We're going to be covering till about chapter 40.
Yeah.
Which sounds like a lot, but considering there's 99 scenarios, and that's like till the third one.
That's up to
scenario
the
end of
3.
It's not much.
Yeah, scenario 3.
So if you have not read it, I highly recommend you do, and then you come back here again to like chapter 40.
Right.
If you love spoilers, Onion, then I'll give you a quick summary. So it's about Dokja. He's the main character. I know it's usually always guys. Anyway,
Yeah, why is that? for you?
Isekai's always usually a guy.
problematic.
But I guess last episode it was mainly we did female, right?
Yeah,
That's
but female
true.
isekais are always like, you know, into fantasy world.
That's
like
true. Like,
princes and stuff
There's a
like
love
that.
triangle.
Love triangle.
That's
That's true.
romance.
It's always
I want a
romance
video game
related.
isekai with a female lead.
Yeah.
Maybe we
there's-
should make that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Noted.
Anyway, okay, so Dokja is an average office worker. He works at Minusoft. It's like a
Microsoft.
Yeah, it's basically Microsoft, which good for him, honestly.
Yeah, get that bag.
He's getting that bread, but he didn't get hired as a full time, which is kind of
True.
embarrassing when he brought it up. Anyway, his sole interest is reading his favorite webtoon novel, and the webtoon novel is called 3 Ways to Survive the Apocalypse. But when the novel suddenly becomes a reality, and this is once the last episode is updated,
Mhm.
he hasn't read it yet, but it goes live, and then he gets a message that's like, thank you for reading. You've been the only reader for 3,000 chapters, like a decade. Here's a gift. And it's the novel. He's the only person in the world who knows how it will end. So he's also armed with not just that realization, but the novel. And he uses that understanding to kind of change the course of the story and the world as he now knows it. It's crazy.
Yes. So much content.
So much content. And he's like, I don't know. Okay, so he's the only one that's been reading this novel, which is kind of weird.
Mhm.
Well, it started off with a lot of people. There was a lot of viewers at first.
yeah, at the
right?
beginning.
Like,
But then-
100-something.
Yeah, there were way more than 100. There was like 1,000, more than
Yeah,
1,000
starts
viewers.
trickling down.
And then by chapter 50, I mean, this comes up later, but you start to see, you know, it dwindle.
Yeah. No, but it's kind of sad because for him, and I like mentioned this before, where I was like, if I'm reading a webtoon and it's really good, I'll literally be like, I don't want to die because I want to like know how it ends. It was that for him, except he attempted suicide, discovered the novel, and he was like, I won't kill myself because I want to know how it ends.
Yeah.
I mean, if that works for you, I'm glad he stuck around because I think he is doing better than the original character
Mhm.
was.
The original protagonist.
Yeah, it gets a little confusing.
There's lots of characters, lots of content, lots of
Scenarios.
like an
scenarios.
onion.
Lots of, yes.
lots of layers.
That's why we're all like cosplaying as Onion today.
Oh, oh, big brain.
Big
I
brain.
know.
Mega Mind.
Anyway, yeah, there's lots going on. So it's like a video game. There's a lot going on in a video game.
So let's play it like a video game.
Okay.
We're already here. Let's start with the main scenario.
First one.
First one, proof of value. So the scenarios are categorized. They have category, difficulty. There's conditions, a time limit, reward, and then also sometimes consequences for failure, as well as like additional info if they give that. So in this one, it's one of the main scenarios, which means it needs to be passed requirement. And the condition to clear it is to kill one or more organisms. You get 300 coins as a reward for murder, basically.
Yeah.
And in this scenario, you're stuck in the subway. Now, we can. How do we want to play? Should we be omniscient readers? Should we know?
I mean, I'm assuming we wouldn't know though. If this actually happened, if we were all in a subway in Korea, you know, mind your own business, coming off of work, we were like corporate baddies, you know, going home. On our way home, and then suddenly the subway stops, and that some, you know, being comes before us and says, y'all gotta kill a living organism, otherwise you're gonna die. And then here's a video of what may happen if you
That's like death.
yeah, if you don't do it, this is what'll happen to you. First of all, would you believe it? Probably not. I would be susceptible. You know, everything I've known. Yeah, everything I've known and loved, like the reality I've been living for how many years of my life. You
But
know?
then he blows someone's head,
yeah,
their
Mhm.
brains out.
When people start dying, then it becomes more believable. Like, oh
Reality.
shoot, this is reality. Yeah. So, I don't think we would be. Would you? I don't think we'd be omniscient readers.
Let's say we're not.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Because Omniscient Reader is like an OP.
I don't think I would live.
I don't think I would either.
Yeah, that was one of the questions I mentioned to Onion earlier before we started this podcast. I said, if you were in an apocalypse and you knew how it was going to end, so if you were an omniscient reader, would you, like, do you think you'd be able to survive if you had the knowledge?
I'd probably be able to mitigate, but the actual action of surviving, probably not.
Yeah, that's how I was feeling too. I said, even if I knew how the like events would play out, I don't think I still don't think
That's
I would
what makes
survive.
our main character Dokja so amazing,
So
though.
special.
Like, he literally just a corporate baddie. You know?
Yeah,
and then
actually.
he just comes in. He's like, oh, wait, I know what's supposed to happen. And he mitigates it. So,
Not the same, but that made me think about exams. When you know it's going to be on the exams, and then
Yeah.
you go in and you just...
What a mood. Would you be
Wow.
able to kill somebody if you were in the main scenario?
No,
So-
I would choose like death over
Yeah.
killing somebody.
yeah.
If my option was to either kill somebody or to die, I would rather die than kill somebody.
I guess would you figure out that you didn't have to kill a human being?
Well,
Like,
that's the
you could
first thing I
kill-
Well, that was the
noticed.
thing. When I was reading it, I
Yeah.
immediately was like, it doesn't say human, it just says organism.
Organism. So I was just like, is there a fly? Is there like a mosquito on the subway that I'd be able to kill?
Normally there isn't, though.
They're very
Mhm.
clean.
Yeah.
That's true.
And I think because they're not allowed to leave, it creates panic.
Mhm.
That's true too.
But yeah, so for the first scenario, basically Dokja quickly realizes what's happening, is able to remain surprisingly calm even though he knows what's going on. Like I feel like I would freak out.
I'd freak out, yeah.
And then sees this kid with crickets and is like,
Right.
Wait,
stop
were they
killing the
crickets?
old
Yeah,
lady.
crickets.
Oh, I thought they were cicadas. for
Here
some
are
reason.
the
Grasshoppers.
crickets. He grabs one.
Crickets, grasshoppers, cicadas, bugs, basically.
It's a bug. And he grabs one. He gives one to the kid after taking his bugs, and then he tosses one.
towards his coworker.
Sangha. She's also a corporate baddie, and she actually did get hired
Mm-hmm.
after the contract.
Yeah.
That he brought it up. He was like, crazy that our contract's gonna end. She was like,
Yeah, I remember that.
Not me.
yeah. She's like, oh, sucks to suck.
So from that scenario, there was actually more people who survived compared to the original one.
Originally, it was just gonna be 2.
Yeah.
And they only survived because they basically were gonna kill everyone on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the subway.
But the thing is, everyone could have survived because the grasshoppers had laid eggs, and it was like over
100.
100 eggs.
Yep.
Yeah, so he would like dissect it, pick up one of the eggs, and
Yeah, I mean, even the old lady, like he literally could have saved the old lady instead of carrying her. Could have been like, here's a little egg, and then like squished it for her.
So how, imagine if you were in Dokja's position where you knew like there was so many eggs, or you knew the events of any of these scenarios, and you probably could save more people, but you chose not to. Would you try to save more people? Like, why do you think he decided not to try to divvy up the eggs?
Probably because he knew what scenarios followed, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I think so. I think he probably realized, would this old lady like survive, for example, scenario 3? You know?
But also,
scena-
he's still
even-
playing God.
Yeah, I know. Or even scenario 4, would so and so survive this? He probably was just like, no. So therefore, I don't know. It's a hard bet. It's like that'd be a hard position to be in, to know, be an omniscient reader.
I think if I saw a group of people beating the lady, I'll be less inclined to try and
save
save
them,
everyone.
yeah.
I'll
Right.
just save people that I know that I would like to save. Like I would save you guys, but I wouldn't particularly save strangers on a.
If I was beating up the old lady, would you still
No.
save me? Valid.
I would, and I don't think you would. In the first place, I'll be like, Cash, what are you doing? I think I was like, are you crazy? And I was, oh
I would just be too into it.
my god, I can't imagine.
I also can't imagine.
I can't imagine like beating a person up. Okay, but then beating up old people.
People, okay. Old ladies built different.
They are though. But yeah. So technically, since you guys like going with playing a video game, I would say that let's say you two survive, because let's say there was a bug, so you wouldn't kill anyone. So for example, you'd be like the characters that did end up killing the grasshopper or bug. Would you have thought about killing? Because then it's like either you thought of killing a bug or you go out to kill somebody else, or then you choose to do neither.
If the bug was an option, I would choose it.
Yeah,
If there was not an option and I had to kill a person,
Yeah.
I wouldn't choose it.
yeah.
hmm
Oh, you can't.
I mean, I would kill the bug. I killed the spider earlier, so
Oh,
what's
yeah.
one more bug?
You were God in that spider's eyes.
I don't like that. When I think about that tonight.
Sorry.
Okay, so moving on from that scenario, there was a couple people who survived, and one person who was originally survived in the original novel is now dead. Remember?
Oh yeah,
I don't remember his name.
high schooler Damsun or something.
But the guy who was called the Edgelord and who got the Edgelord attribute.
he's the e-boy.
Mhm.
Edgy.
I don't remember his name, but he died in the
Because he was a psychopath. And he knew he was a psychopath. And he was like, we're getting rid of him now. And good thing, too, because he was going to murder everyone, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, friend.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So from there, it was Dokja, his coworker, Sangha, right?
Yeah.
Yep, Sangha.
Sangha is super pretty and really popular. And it's the reason the other dude is on the train.
Right.
The other dude is another coworker they have.
He was so
That's
annoying.
annoying.
Mr. Han.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, him. And then the little boy, Gil Young, I think his name was.
Yeah.
Okay, so those
no, and the
people
soldier
survived.
guy.
Oh yeah, and the soldier guy. I forgot about him. What is his name?
Hyun Sung.
And he's an original character from the novel, right? So his role has been written.
Is also kind of a baddie.
Yeah,
His role has been written.
he built different.
He's like military.
yeah.
Literally built different.
So we have these characters and they all survive and they move on to the next scenario. The next scenario, or was it a sub scenario?
I think it was a sub scenario.
They had to get across the bridge, right?
Yeah.
And during that whole process, oh wait, before that, they had to choose constellations. They had the first constellation
the first
choosing.
constellation
Yeah.
selection. What
How would you describe constellations?
constellations are basically like, you know, when you're watching a live stream of your favorite gamer, you're like the constellations, you know, you could like send in money to your streamer.
Yeah.
Like to the, let's just say you're watching a live stream tournament, okay, of like Super Smash Bros, for example, and you're a viewer, you can send in like support to your favorite like what's it called, contestants, basically, in the tournament. So that's how I would that's what the first thing I thought of. I was just like, they're literally like subscribers to people's YouTube channels.
I actually got a lot of, oh my god. When I was reading that and they mentioned the constellations for the first time, I actually got a lot of Hunger Game vibes.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Because in Hunger Games, the people who are basically the rich people who are watching the sponsors, they're watching the whole event happen and they choose when to literally send support. Like Katniss got, there was a time Katniss literally got like a
food,
like health
ointment.
and
Oh, yeah,
ointment and
yeah,
stuff like that
yeah.
to help save
PETA.
PETA.
I really like the Hunger Games. This kind of does give Hunger Games vibes.
Yeah.
But that was immediately what I thought of when they brought up the constellations. And I think the parallels between the constellations and like us as readers is also really interesting because in a way we are the ones watching in on their story.
We're
Yeah.
literally readers reading about a reader who read TWSA, but also knows. I don't know where I'm going with this.
It's very meta.
It's very meta. Like we're the readers reading about a reader who read about TWSA, who like knows about like what's gonna happen, and then we're reading what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a way, we're the constellations too. So I thought that was interesting because even though we can't directly send support, we can send our own coins because it's Webtoon to read the next chapter and support them.
I guess it's true.
Yeah, that's like something I also thought of. Like we're basically out looking in. We don't know what's gonna happen. Just like how the constellation. We're watching the star stream. Don't know what's gonna
They kind of know what's going to happen, though. That was at least suggested after Namsoon died, which was the Edgelord. Because they're like two constellations were mad about it because they're like, that's not as it was projected. Because remember, it's like already written out. And that's part of why it gets Dokja so much attention. Is the fact that he's like acting out and changing things. What did initially like captivate my attention was so what is the monster?
the monster? Which monster?
Now all I can think of is Dofoki.
Oh, the
Dokebi.
Dokebi. He was like, you have been living such privileged lives. Did you think it was for free?
Yeah, I remember that line.
I was like, so if the way they're paying is by being entertainment for other galaxies, basically, like, does the author also want us to be like, could that be us? Are we supposed to be like, if that's the same world we're living in, could be us? Dang. But also, if we're a constellation that's watching, could it be like, are we next? I'm very curious as to like, I don't know, because I'm like, spoilers. I don't want to give spoilers. However, there was like there's actually like world jumping and like universe jumping that happens in the story. So I'm like, it would be interesting to see how much of like a wall break can be made throughout the story. Just thought.
There's just so much content in this story.
It's kind of hard to be like,
to pinpoint what to discuss.
Let's just go chronologically though, because because the way that this whole story is set up is in scenarios, it kind of gives a good arc thing to discuss. So after the main scenario number 1
This is a bridge.
which is a sub scenario, right?
yeah,
It's
do you
part
want
of
to
the-
stick to...
Well, like what happens on the bridge? Not a lot happens at that point, but that's when Dokja meets the actual protagonist. So I kind of want to talk about him, the protagonist. What's his name again? Ju something. Jung-hyuk. Okay, yeah, him. Okay, he's
Okay,
I get it. Okay,
he's the protagonist, but he kind of bad. Like he kind of evil.
But the thing
they
is...
give him that's what I wanted to mention. Like the way that they set up his character at the beginning, Dokja is like, oh, I hate him, blah blah blah. You get like a weird like, oh, is that the antagonist kind of vibe? But then you realize, wait, that's the protagonist. But he's a regressor, so there's different character attributes in this story, which also makes it like
A little
really
bit more
spicy and very different from other isekais, because every person has their own like personal attributes, personal skills, and then they have like the world skills that you can earn, right?
Yeah.
And the protagonist, what's his name again? Jun-hyuk. He's a regressor.
So Jun-hyuk was assigned as someone tougher in body and nobler in heart than any other creature in this world. He is resolute and determined, aiming at accomplishing his goal no matter the cost, in particular when aiming for the end of scenarios. However, because he's a regressor, he's like lived this multiple times.
Yeah, I think
It's surviving romance vibes.
and
right?
it's like, yeah, like at some point it kind of breaks you. And it got to the point where like, despite him trying to do the best actions to lead to the most like survivors, I read somewhere where basically like the noble or like the constellations that are about justice begin to hate him because he's committed so many crimes, so many like sins. And even like the scenario where he's like, why did they survive? Why did so many people survive? Or like the crickets, the bugs, what changed? And he was like, maybe it's because we started killing everyone like initially.
Yeah. I think his role is really interesting though, because if you like do a duality between the real protagonist and then Dokja, who's our protagonist, Jun-hyuk is a regressor. So no matter how many times he dies, he'll be able to get another chance at life. And you see this in all other video games, like if you're playing Legend of Zelda, you know, you die, well, you're just gonna start back at your save point kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's where the regressor trait comes from that concept in video games. But Dokja, he doesn't have that same skill, right? But he does have the fourth wall, right?
Yeah.
And his fourth wall skill helps him like nullify his emotional response.
Yeah.
It almost gives him like a mental one-up, as opposed to Jun-hyuk. He doesn't have that same mental one-up that Dokja has, right? So I think that's what makes this story also really interesting, because even though he has like, Dokja has the advantage, or sorry, even though Jun-hyuk has the advantage of going back even when he dies, that starts to mentally break him down, right?
Yeah.
Versus Dokja, he only has one chance, even though later you like he only has one chance supposedly, but his mental fortitude is much, much stronger than Jun-hyuk.
Yeah.
And so the way that they kind of set up the story, it's almost like, oh, who's the good guy? Like I'm rooting for Dokja, and like
Like
who's
who's the real protagonist?
Yeah, who's the real protagonist? That's basically what the story is set up to be like. And I'm still wondering, like, yeah, they're probably gonna be way more intertwined as it goes on, but
Yes.
very interesting.
That's the cool thing about this story. I think one of the better ones that I've read overall too. But it's fascinating how none of these characters are one-dimensional. Especially as you
Right.
continue with the story, you're like, oh my gosh, they changed.
Yeah, like for example, the boy, Gil Young, I was thinking he would just be a young kid just trying to survive, and that you know, they would kill him off eventually just because he's a young kid trying to survive, where his parents, I don't know, he don't know. But instead, you get to this point where even the real protagonist, Jun Hyuk, is like trying to scout him because he realizes his potential. He like talks to bugs and all this stuff. So it's just very interesting. They're very well-rounded characters, and they're not flat at all. And if I had to follow like a character arc where it would focus on each one of the characters leading something where they branch off away from the group to like help the group in a different way, you know, kind of thing. Yeah. If I had to follow one of those characters, any of them, I'd be completely fine with that.
That might be what gives it kind of like the video game vibe. Because like you could play as any of them. And they're all cool. They all have powers. And they're all also like kind of relatable in a way. Usually they're insecurity, which kind of sucks. But like, you can do all that. You're still a little kid. Me too.
This isekai is very much like a video game, which a lot of isekais are. But it's really interesting that you mentioned you can play as any of the characters in a video game. I think that really says a lot about the story. You won't get bored, basically.
Yeah. Following
any of the characters, or even if you attach to one of the characters, you wouldn't feel bored because each character is just so different, so unique, and so well-rounded. It's just very, very fun to read. And you want them all to survive. And if any of them do die, which I haven't gotten there yet, because I'm only at beginning of scenario 4, which is like chapter 50-ish, I think I'll be heartbroken. Oof.
Okay, what makes it cool is that it creates a parallel between the original story that he read and the one that's being created.
Yeah, and then there's going to be a point where he's already changing so much, you know?
Yeah.
That it'll probably get to a point where he doesn't even know. Yeah, he will no longer know what the heck is going to happen. Yeah. So that's another interesting thing about it.
And there's also new characters being involved. So he's creating his own party, which is based off of the characters that weren't originally the story and the characters that were trying to honestly have a better party than the main protagonist originally, which is Jun Hyuk. I think something that's interesting about it is that it creates a parallel between the story that is written and the one that is not. And he's trying to, Dokja, who is our protagonist, is trying to create a team that can basically defeat all the scenarios so they can make it out alive. I want to go on like a side tangent on how like selfless they all are and how much I hope they're all going to come out alive, but I feel like they're going to self-sacrifice. Unrelated. So now that he's building his team with characters that were in the original story and characters that are not, who is y'all's favorite character or team member thus far?
Let me just look at these characters.
Yeah, my head have to be like, who is in the team thus far?
I think Jung Hee-won is one of my favorite characters.
She's the sword, right?
Yeah, she, Dokja saved her, right? Yeah. At the beginning, I thought she was going to be like, just a side character, really. Like, not even, just a normie, or what do they call them?
NPC?
Yeah, NPC, basically. I literally thought she was going to be an NPC. She has contributed so much to the Dokja gang. So Team Dokja, yeah. Again, like all the characters are just so 3D, so 3-dimensional. You think it's gonna go one way with her, but it doesn't, and she just becomes such a likable character. And she's strong. We love strong female. Yes.
I like you know who Yu Seung is? She's the Beastmaster. That one is my favorite character. Not, I guess, one of my top favorite characters. She
comes in a little later, but
way later. But she's one of my favorites in the game.
What about as of right now?
Okay,
up to scenario 3.
The initial gang. I like Dokja, the main character.
Yeah.
He's a good main character.
He's doing his best. Yeah. And I feel like that's all you can ask from a main character.
Yeah.
He's very calculated.
Yeah.
I'm going back to whether or not I would be able to survive in an apocalypse, even if I had the original text on what's going to happen. And I'm like, no, I wouldn't. But I don't know, some of the things that some of the things that he thinks about so early on beforehand to make sure that it happens later is like mind-boggling. I'm going into something a little bit later, but there was a point when they like learned like acupuncture or pressure points. And I just thought, oh, cool, that's a cool ability. And then when it comes back later, I'm like, he really thought it through. He be thinking so well. So yeah, he's a very appreciated character, I would say.
Yeah.
The team would not be the same without him.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
There would be no team.
Yeah, half of them would be dead.
He won at all. He would be dead.
Yeah. So talking about Hee-won, so Hee-won comes in before the second scenario starts because Dok just saves her when the air is like poisonous and whatnot. But before that happens, he actually makes the star contract agreement with the Dokkaebi. That was my favorite part.
It was so funny.
That was so funny. I was not
calculated.
I was not expecting that to happen at all.
He's a businessman. It makes sense why he was at Microsoft, not Microsoft, but fake Microsoft.
Fake Microsoft.
But yeah, I thought that part was super funny. And he was like, no, I'm taking 100% what you mean.
Right.
I'll get you subscribers, but I'm taking 100% of the profit. Star contract.
I like how the Tokebi also has the character growth.
Oh yeah.
It has a character growth too.
He's like, do I care? He's like, I think I do care. You also like the sword. That's your favorite character.
Yeah.
The sword girl?
Hee-won.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Who's
Hee-won.
your favorite character?
Mine is Soo-young, which is basically the fake,
The plagiarizer.
the plagiarizer. So
She comes in later though, right?
yeah,
I think
she does come in later.
Scenario 4.
Dang, but I like her, and I feel like I'm excited to see the character development from her. I've seen a little bit because I have read ahead. However, I don't know. I just think it's interesting. I just think it's like a funny character to make. The author had to make this story and then had to be like, there's an author in this story, and then the author publishes the work and no one's reading what the work is being like as it's written, but then like someone else is plagiarizing and they wrote a character about the character.
Okay, but who is the author?
That's the plot twist.
That is the plot twist. And I don't want to get into that. I have like some ideas.
What's your ideas?
But it's later.
Conspiracy theories.
It's a little later, like because it's stuff that happens in the more recent chapters. But since we're only covering up to the third scenario, we can get to that at a different time.
Next spotlight. Okay, so should we get to the next main scenario?
Yes.
Okay, so basically get through the tunnel and meet the survivor of the first shelter zone underground station.
So this one kind of, they kept delaying the second scenario because the second scenario didn't start until they went into the specific zone, and they just kept delaying it. So there was like a lot of like sub scenarios that were happening. But the main scenario started when they met Jihei, who was an actual novel character who had
The high schooler.
who killed her friend.
Yeah.
That was when the main scenario actually started.
That was crazy also, like seeing that happen in the first episode.
Yeah, it's
Second.
like one of the first couple chapters. Yeah.
And then being like, oh, I know that character.
Mhm.
We saw her kill her classmate, the only one that survived out of her classroom.
yeah.
And that's why you should have class pets. So there would have been 2 survivors.
Would
if-
plants be considered as living organism?
Yes.
But like, how do you kill a plant?
You uproot it.
Eat it. Just chew it down.
Yeah, I guess if you ate it,
Yeah.
I think that would work.
I will shove it in my mouth.
Because if you uproot it, it still has roots.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question.
Would food be living? No, it wouldn't.
Oh, girl.
Again, all the
Never mind,
requirements that it's a living
Never
organism.
mind. No, I was just thinking about herbs, and you use herbs on food. So if you ate like cilantro, for example,
Cilantro's not a living
It's no
organism.
longer living.
what?
That's embarrassing. Stop there.
Okay, stop there.
I have a question. Okay, if you were to write a scenario,
Yeah.
okay, what would your scenario be?
That's so hard. Because all these are so intricate.
Yeah, like that movie thing, the cinema dungeon.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Literally ripping from real movies, but I don't think I would have thought of that. Just saying.
I think if I were to write a scenario, I definitely would want it to be more focused. There's some scenarios that are the consequence right away is death,
Yeah,
right?
like surviving.
Yeah.
Surviving. I wouldn't want to focus on that specifically. I'd want to focus on an objective and also focus on like dwindling, if that makes sense, dwindling down the numbers in a way. So
In
that
what
there's
way?
no, well, for example, some of the scenarios are like immediate death is a consequence. I wouldn't want it to be like an immediate, like, bye, you're done, dead kind of thing. I don't know exactly what it would be, but I would want there to be an objective that kind of shifts it so that the numbers are a little bit more dwindled down. Does that make sense?
But death would make it dwindle down.
But it's not an immediate like consequence.
It's like a slow death.
No, not a slow
like
death.
you have 20 and then you have 10 and then you have 5. And then you keep going.
Also, for round 1, round 2, round 3 kind of thing.
Kind of like that.
Sort of. So like for example, scenario 3,
The safe zones.
yeah, but that one's a little bit too like strict. I'm thinking a little bit later. So later after scenario 4, capture the okay, so I guess capture the flag, which is talking about scenario 4, is a little bit more along the lines. There's a clear objective, but if you don't pass, then it just dwindles down the numbers, but death isn't necessarily a consequence.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
You know, because in that scenario, you just get you get lumped into another person's group, but death isn't really the immediate consequence.
Why would you want to watch that?
I don't know.
Like as a
As
consolation.
a consolation, would you want to?
I would want to watch Funny Deaths. America's Funniest Home
Funny
Videos.
Deaths.
But it's like Happy Tree Friends. Is that what the show
Oh my god, yeah.
Like that.
It's some animals, like. Okay.
I mean, it's brutal, but like, it's like the Hunger Games. Like, what if people are watching this to be entertained?
But
Yeah.
I'm not entertained with people dying. If I'm putting this in the point of view of a streamer, right, or me watching a Twitch stream, I'm one of those constellations who are like sentimental and I'll like spend my money on the heartwarming parts. I watch for the story and the character, like the
Character development.
Yeah.
But in this case, the constellations are sponsoring.
Yeah. They're
I'm assuming that's like a bet, so you'd want.
well, yeah,
whoever's
because you want the
sponsoring.
person you're sponsoring to do well so they can incarnate, you know,
the incarnations.
the incarnations.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're spending money for that person to survive.
Basically, yeah.
I would do where like a zombie scenario, like they're stuck in a space, there's zombies all around you, and let's say everyone's not everyone's, but that's too hard. So everyone's there, and they're trying to find keys to open an entrance door, and let's say you are bitten, but you're not like KO'd right away. So there's like certain number. You can also find cures throughout the building. So the main objective is to get out of the building, and if you're bitten, you can find cures within the building.
Okay, interesting.
That would be my scenario.
How about an Among Us scenario?
How about, I was going to say, actually, instead of movies, it's video games. But I was thinking Splatoon, because I think that would be funny.
Yeah, Splatoon would be good.
Among Us would be kind of messed up, though, because I feel like you would kick people out based on how much you like them.
But you don't kill people. You have to kill them, right? If
Yeah,
think
you
who's
would
the
have to
imposter, You have to
kill.
kill the imposter.
Yeah, but then everyone dies if they don't figure out who actually
Yeah.
the imposter is.
Savage.
That's a good one.
That would be a good
That's a good
scenario,
one.
though. So in the story, there's some situations where, for example, before scenario 2 actually begins, there's the situation where they try to delay it, right? They're trying to delay the scenario from beginning because if the scenario isn't able to start, then what kind
They
of
can't
thing?
continue.
They can't continue. Then it's like win-win for everyone.
What was scenario? Because I don't remember the food distribution.
Yeah, that was the sub scenario before scenario 2 started.
You're right.
Mhm.
It's,
They were supposed to find food, and there was like the major and the minors. The minors had to go out into the poisonous world to collect food, while the majors had to. Well, they were basically like the mafia gang.
Well, the majors were basically like, oh, you can sign up for our search, like our scout party, like where you'd go out and scout for food. But it was basically only the minors who were given the option to sign up.
But the scout party was actually like a fake. You know, the minors were going out. Like the scout party
With
was
the
the
majors
minors
group too.
with the majors, but they were killing.
Yeah.
Because they're like, why do they have so many coins? Remember? And then
Yeah.
it ended up being like, oh, it's because they are killing people,
Yeah.
part of the actual party to go find food.
Go find food.
yeah.
Yike.
It's so wild, and this also shows like group mentality or crowd mentality, where it's like because none of them, even with the how the guy had a superpower where he can control people on how they think or control the crowd.
Oh, the
into thinking a
hypnosis one.
certain way.
Oh, the
Yeah.
enticer.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's about 80 people, but not one of them out of the 80 people had like an inkling of, wait, this is kind of weird, of why our people are coming back dead, but their people are coming, like all of them are coming back alive. But then they squish the idea because everyone else is thinking that way, so they're just like, maybe it's nothing.
It's not only like group mentality, but it's survival mentality too. When you're in that mentality, you don't really want to think in a way too. Like you just want to survive.
Well, there's aren't so many things that are against you surviving. Why would you even imagine it being someone that you're depending on to survive?
Yeah.
Especially like human to human. I think there's a lot of like interesting psychological aspects about this webtoon that I'm like, we could dive deeper into that. Even just like them by themselves, but especially in group settings. I don't know if it's at that part yet, but when they're at the cages and they're like fighting each other, I was like,
that was like gladiator style.
yeah.
That's so weird when you think about it. Back in the day, they had like coliseums and they literally just watched people battle to the death.
Yeah.
Like they were fine seeing people die or being ripped apart. And
Well, I feel like there's a lot of aspects in like history that aren't so far away where it's like people would still watch people die for entertainment.
I mean, people watch illegal dogfights or things like that.
Or chicken fighting.
Yeah.
Yikes. Anyway, humans are scary.
Yeah, very.
For sure.
I guess, okay. So, thinking back to our earlier isekai conversation from our last episode, you would get tossed into Breath of the Wild. I already forgot.
Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing. No, but you picked a different one. It
Did
was this one, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, this one. Okay, no, this one would actually be like Tensura. It'd be cool, but at the beginning,
When you die.
I would die.
That would be hard though, but that's kind of the point of this, right? You like get tossed in, you die.
But yeah, these scenarios though,
Dude, it's like being in Squid Games.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that yet, but
Yeah, it's like this was giving me Squid Game vibes. Hunger Games, Squid Game, Battle Royale, all of those.
Fortnite?
Yeah, Fortnite.
Well, no, the movie Battle Royale.
Oh,
Those kinds of vibes. Those surviving show
yeah.
vibes. Survivor Man. No, I'm joking.
these scenarios, like specifically scenario 3, the fact that Dokja was like knew there was a hidden room. Oh, gosh, like
The green spaces?
Yeah, the green spaces. Still, all this stuff is like wild. I would not be able. No, I'd be dead. Bye. Just kill me
Like how
now.
You just accepted your
Kill me
fate.
now. If we were to survive this apocalypse, I'd be dead.
Yeah, I think I would have been dead by the first one.
Though you had to kill off another person.
Yeah, organism, killing an organ. Because, I mean, okay, I've survived, then what? We don't know what's next.
Right.
Yeah, we'd have to
Rather
cross
not
the
find
bridge.
out.
Yeah. I guess if I have a good constellation backing me up.
I guess that's true.
But dude, because you don't know who they are, you can have a really bad constellation. You know the people who had the minion, the king of little minions, and he was a masochist, and he would rather see his incarnation suffer than helping them out.
Okay, if you were in this situation, so Dokja, he still hasn't chosen a constellation.
Right.
Yeah.
Would you, if you were in this situation, would you take Dokja's route and not choose a constellation, or would you
If I
choose
was
one?
I feel like I would because I wouldn't know that I couldn't, based on how the Dokebi introduced the constellations. It kind of made it seem like you had to choose something. So, yeah.
I think I would have waited. Unless I was put in a do or die situation where I knew 100% I was gonna die, unless I had to choose somebody, that's when I would probably choose.
It'd be hard to choose if you have no idea what any of them do either, too.
Yeah, once he said aptitude test, I was like, I'm out. Like, sorry, no can do.
I think I would kill another human being in the first episode, first scenario.
No one asked you that, Onion.
Everyone was saying they wouldn't.
You're like, I would do murder. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would. I think I'd survive.
You think you would survive? Well, I think out of all of us here, you probably would
survive the longest.
Yeah.
You probably would survive the longest, I would say.
Thanks.
No problem. Literally no problem. We're like, we'll just lay down and take it, honestly.
Isn't there like different scenarios happening based on your location?
Yeah.
It's interesting that Dokja, he's reading the scenarios as it happens.
Before they actually happen?
Yes, if that makes sense. Okay, so he's reading the scenarios as it happens. Like he knows what's going to happen. But what are the chances that the scenarios he's reading are the scenarios he's going through? You know, versus it's already been mentioned that in other locations there's different scenarios.
It's true.
So there's possibility like, why isn't he getting involved in
A different scenario. Why is he following this?
He was just at the right place, right time.
Yeah.
Context clues.
I mean, wouldn't you rather go based off of like what you know a little bit about than like go in blindly?
Oh yeah, for
Which
sure.
also, if you're a foreigner, you're fucked.
Right.
Yeah.
Sucks to suck. Should have come here earlier so you'd know the language better.
Sorry. Should have been cultured.
Honestly, like I was thinking about that because when the Dokebi was like, "Sorry, I'm messing up like my language."
His
whatever.
translator or whatever.
Yeah.
And Sanga was like, "I think he's speaking Spanish. Should I try to talk to him?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Girl,
And her
no."
Spanish was, can you lend me money?
Yeah, literally. Also, could you imagine if like he was like, "Oh, this must be the right language," because she like understood, and it's just Spanish for all these Koreans and the like. You're gonna get them all dead. Like, yeah.
I find it fascinating. It wasn't just in Korea. They even mentioned how other countries were like
Experiencing it too.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the scenarios would change. But do you guys think there would be a specific location that would be safer than others?
If you yeeted yourself to the mountains, then maybe.
Yeah.
If you weren't
Surrounded by
other people. Mm-hmm.
Because it wouldn't be as interesting.
Would it be harder though? Because the newbie versus I can't think of a scenario where you would be able to go by like maybe you have to fight monsters.
Well, if
you're
you
left
think
by
about
yourself.
it, the things that are causing the scenarios or prompting the scenarios are the dokebi that we know of, right?
Yeah.
Because the constellations are sponsoring the dokebi to, you know, basically for entertainment. So if you're in the middle of nowhere, would there be scenarios?
Would there be entertainment?
Yeah.
Not really. So you might be safe if you're yeeted in the mountains.
Did we just hack? Like, did we break the code for how to survive?
How to survive?
3 ways to survive an apocalypse. Live.
Don't live in the city.
Yeah, literally.
first of all.
Live in the mountains, away from everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, podcast over.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah, like, comment, and
Tune in
subscribe.
next time for part 2, where we discover the second way. Wait, does it actually ever list the 3 ways to survive?
I don't think so.
At the beginning, I thought it did.
I feel like we're getting to it, but I do think we just found one. Don't be entertaining.
Well, yeah. We have
1
less than
minute.
30 seconds left.
Yeah, really good. I would recommend. I would read it.
There's so
Tune
much
in next
content.
time for the next.
There's
Honestly, we
too
should
much
break this
content.
down. Maybe we should do like 20 episodes, and then whatever that is, we'll cover for the spotlight. Chuff's choice. I hope you liked our first selection. Thank you so much for tuning in for episode 6 and our Chuff's Choice Omniscient Reader. See you next time. Please like and subscribe, comment, let us know your thoughts, and we'll definitely be reading them. So